Welcome to this how-to video from eWard Winning Outdoors at ewardwinning94.wordpress.com. I want to talk a little bit today about how to solder plumbing, which some people find that intimidating, but it really doesn't need to be. To be able to do that, we basically need a soldering torch, a little propane torch, a tub of flux, which is a thinner that helps the solder flow together better, some lead-free solder so that when we use it for plumbing that we're going to drink out of this plumbing, it doesn't create lead issues. Original solder was made of lead and tin. Newer solders don't include lead. Got a tubing cutter here, and I've got a little coupling that I'm going to solder on as if I'm trying to extend my plumbing out for some reason. The tubing cutter is a device that has a screw down deal, a couple rollers, and a really sharp wheel here. And that will give you a nice clean edge on any plumbing that you're needing to cut. You just open it up enough to fit your pipe in it. And then say I'm just going to take about a ½ inch off here or so. You just kind of screw it down snug, rotate it around, and that starts a groove. And as it gets a little looser, you tighten the screw handle a ½ turn or so, go around again. And after a couple turns, your pipe is cut. It's a nice square clean cut. This one has a triangular point thing on it that you can clean out the end of the pipe and just make sure there's no burrs or anything. And then the other device I like to use is a pipe cleaner. It's a wire brush with holes for different common sizes of pipe. That just fits around the edge of the pipe. You spin it around a few times, and that'll take off any tarnish or corrosion that might be on it. Polishes it up nice. You can see it's a little shinier there, but it also roughens it up to where you get a little more surface area there to make connection. At that point, take your flux and get a little bit of flux on the end of that pipe. Make sure that your coupling or your elbow or whatever it is you're wanting to connect fits in there. I'm going to use this just to kind of keep the pipe up off my workbench here while I'm using the torch. Take the torch and light it with either a lighter, or a lot of folks will use a striker. You're going to apply the torch flame right to that connection point there. There's a little bit of a label on there that's burning off, and that's perfectly fine. Just kind of spread the flame all the way around that connection there where you're wanting your two pipes to be connected. And then as you get it hot, that should melt the pipe itself with no flame applied, should melt your solder, and that flux will cause the solder to just draw right up into the connection point there. And this is called sweating a fitting. You may hear that term used. It just draws right in. We can turn our torch off. And at this point, more solder is not helpful. It draws it up into that connection there, and you have a connection that is going to hold water. I always, if I'm going to put water pressure to it, I always watch it just to make sure we didn't miss something. But that's all you got to do. If it happens to be your plumbing overhead, like piping in the ceiling, this will actually draw the solder all the way around that connection, even when it has to go up to do that. It's pretty cool how it works. One other little trick I learned is if you're plumbing on existing plumbing that's had water in it, it has to be dry. The solder has to get above the boiling point of water to melt. So as long as you got water in that pipe, it will never get hot enough to melt your solder and get a good connection. And if you got like in my house, the plumbing runs along the ceiling of the basement, it could take hours for all that water to dribble out of there. But what you can do is take a wad of old nasty stale bread, shove it into the end of that pipe, and that will keep the water away just long enough that you can get your soldering done, make your connection, and then when you turn the water on, that bread just kind of turns to mush and flushes out your faucet and it's gone. That was a super handy trick that a friend told me a few years ago. So that's all there is to it, to solder plumbing together. Like and click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on other good videos, and that also helps me out a bit. And hopefully this proves to be a hint that you can use in the future if you need to.